Okay, today's subject is a 64 Thunderbird convertible. The complaint is hard starting. And if you notice, look down here at the old carburetor. Fuel all over the intake, and you'll see a dripping out of the accelerator pump, so that's burst. So yeah, pull this thing off and start the rebuild. Okay, so here we have the Ford 4100 carburetor, and you may ask yourself, well gee, that carburetor doesn't look too grubby, and truth is it was probably rebuilt maybe a year ago, but thanks to the wonderful alcohol in the fuel, it eats up the rubber gaskets and stuff in these old carb kits. They just don't, I don't know, haven't been able to find carb kits that that have alcohol resistant stuff in them. And of course these old cars shouldn't have any alcohol in them at all. You know, the best thing is to get the non-alcohol fuel if you can get it. Buc-ee's has it, Walmart has it, some other places I guess probably do, but you know, you got in cars like this Thunderbird, they don't need premium fuel. And we'll pull this thing apart, and you can see how it all comes apart. Got a basket over here. So yeah, it's really not too grubby inside, but if it's leaking, it's leaking. So we'll do a whole rebuild on it. you know, on a really filthy carburetor, you know, I might pull all the jets out just to get all the passageways clear. But I've got a new ultrasonic cleaner that really does a pretty good job. And since this carburetor's really not filthy, I mean, it's really very clean. So I'm gonna forego that this time around, and we'll stick it in the soup and let it cook. Okay, here's our ultrasonic cleaner. I've got the heater turned on. Gonna set it for 30 minutes, and then here's our settings and whatnot. Kick that baby on. You can watch the little clouds and stuff coming up off the parts immediately. You know, see back over here too. Really a pretty cool machine. We'll let that cook for 30 minutes and pull it out, wash it off, and build a carburetor. Okay, so it's been cooking here for, I don't know, almost 30 minutes. You can just take this stuff out. I take it in here to the sink and flush everything out with water, blow it all out with compressed air, and then we can start building a carburetor. Okay, so carb's been washed out, blown out. You always, on these 4100s, you always want to check and make sure after you get done blowing out passages with air and what, that these little plugs don't get shot off into oblivion. And you want to make sure that they're kind of staked around the corners here to make sure they don't come off. I've got a kit here. It's a high grade. I've had good luck with these kits. It's for this 4100 Ford and most all these Ford 4-barrels. It's a 361D is the part number. Okay. I like to start at the bottom of these carburetors just for the heck of it. No particular reason. Got to start somewhere. So, get your new power valve. You'll notice there's a step. There's a step on these where the ring sits. Try to screw that baby in and make sure that that stays somewhat centered. You might even have to kind of back it out a little bit here and there, but make sure it's centered. Snug it down. You don't got to torque it or anything. You got a little gasket for that cover plate. Put your cover back on. Screw that baby down. Try to do it in a crisscross pattern anytime you're doing covers and things, or at least you know, on covers that have multiple bolt holes. You want to kind of jump around and try to do it evenly. These things are made out of pot metal and they bend easy. You can distort them, especially the accelerator pump housings. I always like to lay the housing up there and gun sight it up against the sun or whatever and look for any daylight. If it's all warped, Hollies are real bad about this. If it's all warped, I take it to the disc sander over there and we'll just touch it to where it just cleans it up, blow it all off, and you can, it's like having brand new, you know, because I mean, people have worked on these carbs a million times, you know, they've been rebuilt I don't know how many times, so the chances of them being warped are pretty good. So got your needles, always take and just kind of wipe and clean the surface off on those before I put them in. And on pretty much on pretty much any carburetor, especially let's say a Holly, you can run your needles in gently and then back them out a turn and a half, and that'll get the car running. These Fords are about the same. There's a half, there's one, there's 1.5. I like to put them at 2 on a Ford carb, just a teeny bit richer. It'll get the car running, and of course you warm it up, you're going to reset all that stuff anyways, but it's a good baseline to put them at to start. Like I say, the car will start and run and get you to the point where you warm it up. So let's see, we got the little plastic doodad. I guess you could lubricate this with something. I just tend to put it in my mouth and get it wet and pull it through till it seats. Probably gonna have cancer now from that, but got your excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Got your accelerator pump gasket or diaphragm. You want to make sure your spring's in proper. If you put the small end in, it's never going to take in fuel because it's going to be pushing on that little flap. So you got to be sure you get it in the right way. The big end of the spring goes in, small end towards the diaphragm. You got a push rod in here, or I don't know, push pin, let's call it. They give you a brand new one in here, so I can pull that one out and pitch it, put a brand new one in. I left this arm on the carb, so it's easy to deal with. And let's see, we're going to put it this away on the outside hole. Oh, hello. There we go. Here, put that back on there. And then we're going to bring this over. Kind of get it all lined up by hand there. Just finger start all your screws. Then we'll turn that up just a tad there. All right, and there again, you want to do a crisscross pattern as you run your screws up. Don't get too carried away with them. So you can see this one's got a oddball screw in it, which probably means the casting has some weak threads, so they put a longer screw to reach down in and catch some fresh threads, but it does tighten up, so we're going to leave it be. Still serviceable. So there we go. Okay, so there's your accelerator pump. All right. Now you select the proper gasket. Get your primary side venturi, because they're the one with the accelerator pump holes in them, easy to tell the difference. And make sure that that gasket seats on there properly. You can sink that puppy down in there. The gasket gets a little askew. You got to be sure it gets sitting properly. Otherwise, that piece will not sit right. So here, we're going to start over on that. You can always turn the carb up on its end here. There we go. And just for grins. I want to make sure that gasket is right. Just for grins here, make sure that nothing's distorted. No, that definitely fits. So, let's see here. We've got a different gasket here. Okay, I screwed up. So, if you look, they give you two different gaskets for that. One of them has a cutout here, one of them doesn't. I accidentally grabbed the wrong gasket, so you want the cutout that matches the parts you're putting on there. And if you'll notice, it fits this a little tighter here, so always check your gaskets closely. See, and then it sits down properly. Okay, they give you a new check ball. Even though I washed the old one, either way. Got a new check ball, that goes down the hole first. And you got your weight, or the pin. What I'll do is, let's see here, get my gasket here. It's not the one I want. There should be, let's see here. Oh, here we go. All right. This is a little black composite type gasket. I find it easy to put the pin in here, put the gasket on there, kind of come in at an angle and drop it in real quick, and everything works out fine. Snug that down. Now on your secondary Venturis, there's really nothing but a gasket and a screw to hold those on. So they just simply drop down in. You can use one of these red gaskets or whatever that comes in there, even though it doesn't fit exactly right, but that's what they give you for it. I mean, this is not hypercritical, this bolt is just simply holding the unit in. So there you go. So Venturi's in. Got your new needles and seats. One for each end. All right, let's see, put that stuff down there. Grab you a gasket. Put it in, get it started by hand. Make sure your screwdriver's clean. And run that baby down in good and snug. Just in case there's any debris or shavings or anything like that. Blow it out, doesn't hurt. Now you got your needle with a retainer that snaps on there. This is our front float, which they don't look damaged. They're obviously not full of fuel. They're not sinking. You could change this little bail on here if you want, but I don't know if I've ever seen one of these that's actually worn out since it's on there. In the spirit of time here, take and put your needle back there. Take your screwdriver and push that bail over until it catches in the groove. I just gently, very gently, take the screwdriver and just ever so gently, just bring it up to where I can feel that stop. You don't want to press on that needle very hard. And I'm looking across here, and as you can see, the float looks pretty much parallel with the bowl. They give you a measurement chart. You can sit there and measure them things all day, but I found that pretty much all of them run parallel. This one actually could maybe come up just a tad, so I'm gonna bend that. You can use your finger even. Just don't push down on it hard. So that takes care of the front. Back here. That screwdriver centered in that thing. Get it tight. No crud in it. Our new retainer just snaps on there. These old Fords are pretty bad about these floats splitting. The solder joint will break or what, and they'll fill up with fuel, and usually you get a bad flooding condition if that happens. But like I say, this was not flooding. These are light. I don't detect anything inside them, so we're gonna put them back in service. And that one's pretty low back there if you look at it. It's pretty low across here, so I'm gonna come in and lift up gently on this and try to get us to parallel there. Here we go. All right, floats are set. Let's see here. We will go ahead and put our top gasket on. Well, you know what? Before I do that, I'll tell you what. We'll put the secondary part in there. So there's our new diaphragm. They give you a new arm, and somewhere in here there is a clip, which the other one did not have on it. There's this little clip. I find a 1/4-inch nut driver works pretty good for this. So basically, you want to figure out how things are going to orient. This is going to go up, going to lock into there. So if I put it on the edge of my table and I put my little speed washer on there and then just give it a little bump, you can get it on there. And if it's a little snug, you can work your screwdriver in behind it and kind of walk it back up just a little bit, just so it's nice and free. Okay, and you can slide that back in the carb here, and let's see here. Where's our roll? Okay, get your roll pin and get it started in the hole, and start bringing it through. We want this to be lined up, so I'll take the punch and stick the punch in there, then get my channel locks and squeeze that roll pin in there. And as it goes in, it pushes out the punch enough that things are lined up. And you can come back around this other side and tap it the rest of the way in. Okay. Now, when you've got the yeah, hey, I'll put it down here. How about that? When you got the you'll notice that this thing can kind of float around a little bit, and of course it's a diaphragm, and you got this spring on this cover plate, and let's see here. You got your four screws. Now, if you put the diaphragm plate on there and start pushing it down, sometimes it'll suck this rubber into the hole. So what I do to stop that from happening is you want to keep some pressure on this and fight the urge of it to collapse the diaphragm. Hold down on that while you're putting the cover on. And you want to make sure that your screws start by hand pretty easy. If they have a bunch of resistance, sometimes you'll notice that what they're doing is they're balling up that rubber. It's very thin, and then your secondary diaphragm will never work. So your screws should be able to go in almost all the way hand tight, you know, by your fingers. And there again, you're gonna do a little crisscross action on them to tighten them up. I'm still holding pressure on that arm just to make sure that it doesn't draw that diaphragm in. All right. Now, the passage for that diaphragm runs up through this, through here, and through there. So you can push down on that, put your finger here, and it should come back very slowly. Now, if without it, see, it goes back really fast. So, see? So that tells me that the diaphragm's doing its thing. You got your arm that fits in only one way. Oh, sorry. Goes in from the bottom, sorry. Come up from the bottom with it. Swing it around, and then it attaches to the secondaries, and the spring tension keeps the secondaries closed, You don't want those obviously opening, creates a bad vacuum leak, thing will run horrible. So don't forget your clip. So there's the secondaries squared away. All right, now we can go back to our cover gasket. They give you a couple different choices. This one has the second little hole here. So, and obviously there's a hole back here for the secondary vacuum port. Basically your top fits on. I just loosely throw that in there first, just to hold things. Start everything by hand, or at least the outer four, so that you know the gasket's lined up properly. And you have your other four. We're gonna go in a crisscross pattern, but I'm gonna just barely kiss them right now. I'll come back and go over it a second time to draw the cover down all the way. Like I said, this is probably one of the easiest carbs to rebuild, and I'd say any Ford guy, any guy that owns his old Ford can do his own carburetor, save some bucks, and it's not hard. It's, you know, has a few little tricks, but gosh, I've probably rebuilt thousands of these things over the years, and same with the Hollies. Probably do, I don't know, at least a carburetor a week these days with the cruddy fuel. Do a lot of carburetors. All right. So then you can run down the center stud there. Snug that down. Okay, basically your carb's done except for the choke housing here, and they give you a new little gasket for the choke housing that goes here around where one of the screws comes through. See right there. So I want to make sure that that stays in place. If the screw protrudes through, you can catch it. Basically, we're going to push that housing on there, and get our screws started. Once you get them all three started, you can connect your link over here. That link that we took off with the E-clip. So we'll stick that back on, and we'll finish snugging up the housing. Make sure that that's on there all the way. Also, you have this link back here that you can turn into the hole here. Well, let me back this out just a tad here. Give me a little clearance there, and it'll make it easier to put that in. There we go. Now there's going to be another clip to hold that rod. And we'll get a, let's see, another hairpin clip. Little, oh, there we go. I don't know if you can see that. A little hairpin clip for the linkage. Use some needle nose. Put a screwdriver in behind to push that out. There's a groove. Snaps into a groove on that rod. It's where you're, if you open the throttle bore, choke. Now this is a little dry, so I'm gonna just give a little shot of juice in the old piston there. That's part of your, you want this to be as free as possible. Sometimes it get carbon buildup in that, let me turn that around there. Get carbon buildup in that piston, and a little WD fixed it right up. Probably just had a little residual crud down in there, not a big deal. Like I say, if you go with an electric choke, you don't have to worry about that. You can not worry about it at all. So let's see, we've got a new gasket for the choke thermostat. Choke thermostat has a hook. It's going to go in the slot on here. Easy enough to do. This one was marked where the guy had it before, which that's a fairly light choke, which is about right for one of these heat-driven jobs that tends to stay on way too long. Let's see here. And we got the extenders here that go on there. Ah, look at that, I put it on backwards. How about that? It is Monday, by the way. Monday morning. And these are kind of a funny, I don't know if you can see that, kind of a funny shape. It's not symmetrical. So you have to get it just right. Get all the bolt holes to line up. Let's see here. Hey, there it is right there. Okay. It's good I'm making some mistakes so you guys can see, right? I guess the good thing is that we catch them, right? You don't want to ship it out with something screwed up. Now, this little piece will get put on after it's on the car where the heater hose runs through there. So basically, there you have it. Ford 4100. Put it on, fire it up, let it warm up good till the choke's fully open, and set your needles for highest engine vacuum and best idle quality. And you can adjust your idle speed over here at this screw, and you can do it. Till next time, see you later.